Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to What Do You Say Anime. I am your host, Peter, and on today's episode, I will be doing a solo adventure, and I will be adding on to my part of my overrated, underrated series that I did before. And I'm going to do my top 10 most underrated anime that I've personally seen. Now, this isn't the underwatch thing that you might see on Twitter if you're familiar, where people will say oh, this anime is so underrated, and they'll link Attack on Titan or Noragami or Mob Psycho. No, 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 no. This is gonna be my personal opinion based off of the Mal rankings or Annie List ranking or ratings, and then my personal ratings. So that's how I kind of determined what I thought was underrated. And since it's my personal list, I'm just gonna do it however I want. So I hope you have fun. I hope you can maybe find shows that if you are familiar with my taste and you enjoyed that, these shows maybe will resonate with you and you'll have a good time with it. So before we jump into it, I just want to say thank you if you are a first time or long time listener. I don't really do these solo episodes all too often, but every now and then I throw it in here just when I feel like talking a little bit, and I feel like talking a little bit. So we're gonna jump right in. Number 10, number 10 most underrated anime of all time, and that is Asobi Asobase. Now, Asobi Asobase, to me, it reminds me of one of my really good friends from high school. His name was Kyle, and his high school senior quote was, "Fart jokes will always be funny." And to me, that's what Asobi Asobase is. It is a hilarious fart joke in the form of an anime. It takes place in high school, like most anime do. But the cool part about it is that it normally just revolves around these three main characters, and they're all female. So the fun part about this is we kind of get a different perspective of fart joke comedy. I'll put it that way, because I think if I say the word fart joke, you probably lean towards the guys, and I don't blame you. It's really this fun, quirky style of show where they do the most random stuff, where they'll play rock, paper, scissors, and then if you lose rock, paper, scissors, you have to look a direction. If you don't get the right direction, they'll shove fingers up your nose. And that's something that I feel that resonates with something boys do. And Asobi Asobase kind of flips the switch. And it was really fun to experience that in a comedy style show. To me, it's one of the funniest animes I've ever seen in my entire life. It's absolutely hilarious. I wish we got more. It's only one season, 12 episodes, and then we got a 2-episode OVA, which was just silly hijinks and stuff like that. But it's a really just fun, interesting style of comedy shows that we don't really see. It's a more, how would I put it, lewd version of Nishijo, where lewd's probably the bad way to put it, but Nishijo is pretty wholehearted, hilarious slapstick style of comedy, where this is also the same thing, but they turn it up a little bit, where they'll be put in more cringe situations, more maybe risque situations, stuff like that, where they deal with there's an episode where they bring a swimming pool and a kiddie pool into the classroom, and they don't want their teachers to find out. A teacher does, but they lock the door, and he sees the water, so instead they just act like it's pee or something like that. Stupid shit like that. And I'm probably describing it horribly, but it's honestly one of the funniest shows I've ever seen in my entire life. And if you like that style of comedy, I think you should check it out. It's kind of maybe Psyche K a little bit, that style of stupid style of humor. And if you're a fan of that, I would definitely recommend you go check out Asobi Asobase. I've tried recommending it to Anime Club a bunch of times, but for some reason nobody wants to watch this hilarious show, which is everybody else's loss. But this show is fantastic. I believe it's on Crunchyroll, so if you haven't checked it out and you're looking for something to laugh to, Asobi Asobase is one of the funniest animes I've ever seen in my entire life. I gave it a 10. It's perfect. I should say it's perfect. There's definitely flaws to it, but it's a really good show, and I think you should check it out if you are leaning more towards, something different in the anime style of comedy, where it's just pure comedy, and that's what this is. No drama, no romance. It's just comedy. It's hilarious. Go check out Asobi Asobase if you haven't already. Number 9. This is a movie from, I believe, 2009 or 2010, and it resonates to me with a lot because it deals with a few things that I absolutely love seeing in anime, and something that's dear to me in my personal life, and that is the movie Summer Wars. And Summer Wars combines two things that I really enjoy talking about, watching, listening, experiencing in real life, and that is video games and family. I love my family. My family is fantastic. They're some of my best friends, And I'm a huge gamer. I love video games. So when you combine those two into a great style movie like this, you get Summer Wars. So Summer Wars takes place in like recent times, and if you've seen this, you know what I'm talking about. But we get this conflict of something's falling to Earth. We need to use like this Oasis style system, like Ready Player One, if you've seen something like that, that everybody in the world uses. And using this like Oasis style of thing, of like environment, will try to prevent this like catastrophe. I'll put in quotation marks. It's not like Armageddon where a asteroid the size of Houston is going to land on Earth and like destroy like 300 million lives. Not to that extent. It's pretty like, in anime terms, it's a pretty minor catastrophe, which sounds awful, but it's that style of catastrophe. I'll put it in like layman's terms, like really really broad terms. Yeah, and it has like a wonderful cast. You get to see like a really fun dynamic between like a large group of a family. Like if this, the main character, they're all at like his grandma's house, and there's like he has like 12 uncles. Everybody has like their own personality, while they're also dealing with this event that's happening in real life, and then just figuring out like things as you go along with it. So it was just one of those movies where I watched it, and I kind of read the premise before going into it. I'm like, video games, like catastrophes, like what's going on? Like how this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And then I watched it, and I was like, oh, this movie was absolutely fantastic. It's funny. It might make you cry. It's got a pretty fun like romance hints into that stuff like as well. Not with the family members, I'll put it that way. It's anime, so you gotta watch out. But it was just like a really interesting story, and I know like a lot of anime fans are like huge gamers and stuff like that, but I know a lot of them haven't really seen Summer Wars, and I think a lot of the times where we see these styles of like movies or shows, the dramatic elements are like turned up pretty high, and this is for the most part is pretty lighthearted. There's the family drama that you see in like any family situation that you like ever deal with. Like there's always gonna be that one aunt who drinks too much and says something. There's always gonna be that one uncle who's probably racist. Like let's be real, that every family probably has one of those two, I would probably guess. But you get to see that dynamic, but that's like kind of the part of like family. Like not everybody's perfect. You can't pick your family, but you're stuck with them. And we get to see that dynamic in the movie. Like I think it's portrayed like extremely well, if not one of the best in anime that I've seen. And that type of like element of a family style story like really resonates with me, because my family is quirky, and we have that aunt and we have that uncle, and it's just like, oh yeah, I can pick up on these things that I see. And at the same time, we have like this element of, we have these characters who don't want to be in the family. They want to be in their room playing video games. Me. And so we have like those characters that I can resonate with. And overall, the movie is really fun, and it's a type of dynamic that we really don't often see in movies, where we have a cast of 15 people in a movie. Something like Your Name is probably maybe something closer to that, where we have like the grandma, the sister, the dad, like the coworkers and stuff like that, where we probably have like a cast of like memorable people to like 9 or 10 people or something like that along those lines. Summer Wars kind of the same thing, a little bit more extended family, where we're in like that 15 people range. And not, like I said before, not many movies do that style and incorporate something like video games, like an Oasis, like this like other world inside of our world, and make it lighthearted. And that's what Summer Wars was to me, and it's why it's one of my most underrated movies in anime in general. I think it's fantastic, and I think everybody should check it out if you haven't. So number 9, Summer Wars. Moving on to number 8 is a show that came out pretty recently. In fact, it came out last year. It was one of my top anime of last year. I can't talk about this enough. And it got the hype. It got hype when it like was airing. And I feel like this seems kind of died out, but I do feel like in the end that this is probably going to be like a cult classic style of a show. And that's Akudama Drive. And Akudama Drive is a cyberpunk style show set in I don't know, let's say like 100 years from now, and sort of a utopian Japan ruled by kind of like authority, like kind of forceful authority. It's kind of like behind the scenes, like authoritarianism, but like you get to see it more as the story develops. On its anime Suicide Squad, but unlike the movie Suicide Squad, this is good. This is really good. It takes place, or our main character, just the dynamic of the character. I don't want to do like too many spoilers in case people haven't seen it, but the main character, her name is, she goes by Swindler. Is it Swindler? Now I'm blanking. Now that I started talking, give me 1 second. But the story, like, there's 7 main characters. Each one has like a trait. One is like a courier. He has like a super cool like motorcycle, and like he'll deliver anything as long as you don't get in his way, type of thing. We have like a hacker. We have the brawler, who's the muscle. We got the hoodlum, who is kind of like I don't know, the dude. We have like the doctor, who, really fun character, I'll put it that way. There's a lot of like elements to her that we don't know if it's a girl, how old this person is. It was a really fun discussion while it was going on. Yeah, Swindler. So Swindler is the main character, and her like overall, like her character, that she got wrapped up in this mess. She's not actually like this criminal, and these criminals are called the Akudama. She kind of just gets like falls into it on accident, and in the end she is the ultimate person. And it's really fun how they interact with each other and how the story progresses with these 7 different types of I'll put them just as criminals. That's kind of how they're portrayed. But then you have like that whole like government thing where like, or is the government the criminal? Are these people actually the good guys? That type of thing. There's a lot of fun dynamics in this show where you kind of have to like pick and choose like the side you're on, or the characters that you side with, or how you view like society as a whole, because there's, as the story progresses and develops, that you find out more and more about this quote unquote like utopian world that they're living in. And you know what, maybe not everything is as peachy as it looks, type of thing. And it's a really fun story. The animation is so good. It absolutely blew me away. I believe it won. It was either first or second place last year for my like top animation. The style, the art direction is just incredible. How they use like the neon style in anime is not really often seen. And kind of just like the character designs were also really well done. Just the art in the show is really good. If you're like a fan of like technical stuff like I am, you'll appreciate the sound direction. You'll appreciate the art direction, the character design, the lighting, stuff like that. That's what Akudama Drive does really well. And to me, it was one of the best anime I saw last year. I believe I gave it, I think it was like number 3 overall for me last year. It was just a wonderful show. And I do think that it got the hype that it got when it aired. But like I said before, it's this style of show, I believe, will be like a cult classic down the road. I think people will reference like, hey, we don't really have like an X style of show, or like Akudama is that style of show. It's kind of like a class of its own. I'm a big fan of like this Suicide Squad style of show. So if you haven't checked out Akudama Drive yet, I would highly recommend checking it out. I give it a 10. I love it. We get a director's cut very soon. I forgot what that entails. But yeah, so if you haven't checked out Akudama Drive yet, check out Akudama Drive. It's like 12 episodes, and to me, it was plenty. I got a full story, and I got what I needed. Number 6. Oh, sorry, number 7. We'll get to number 6 after number 7. This show is great. I love this show so much. I think in terms of when I'm enjoying a show, writing fun is just as important as writing as like a compelling story or compelling characters. And I believe that this show does that in like a very silly way that we kind of do see from, I'll put it isekai in quotation marks because it's the easiest way to describe it, even though I don't think it is technically an isekai. But you can, hopefully you understand what I'm saying when I say this. And that is Beaufort. I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense. So Beaufort is just you have this girl who has a friend who wants to play games with her, and she's like, sure, I've never done it before, let's do it. She ends up picking up the game. Her friend has like study for a test, so she's like, I'll level while you're gone type of thing. It's like an MMORPG if you're familiar with like World of Warcraft or something like that. It's like that style of game. And what she ends up doing is, because she has no guidance or anything like that, she kind of is learning on the go by herself for the first time. And she hates pain and she doesn't want to be hurt or anything like that. So what she ends up doing is maxing out all of her stats into defense. And it turns out that style of gameplay in the world that they're in hasn't really been seen before. And then things progress from there. So you end up meeting a bunch of cool characters. You get Klein from Sword Art Online, who looks exactly like Klein, but it's not. You meet like other guilds that they're like fighting against. You get to meet her like best friend eventually down the road, that they play together, and they have like, she's like the offense to her defense. It's really fun. And you get like characters where they just meet along the way, where the main character's name is Maple, and you find characters that are like similar to Maple, and they join a team and they have a bunch of fun together. And it's one of those shows where I was watching it, I was like, the only thing that this show is doing is I'm having way more fun than I would if I was watching Sword Art. I'm having way more fun if I was watching Log Horizon. And that's like what clicked to me. I'm like, this show is fun. This show is hilarious. This show, I'm having such a great time with these characters. And that sort of clicked to me. I was just like, I really don't have those shows that often where I'm just sitting down and I'm having an absolute blast with whatever they're doing on screen. The closest thing that to me was like Laid Back Camp, where I'm just watching girls camp and I'm having an absolute blast watching it. Beaufort is the same thing. It's just people playing a video game in this augmented reality, whatever servers that they're in, and I'm just having fun with it, and they're having fun with it. And when they have fun, I have fun. It's funny how that works out. Beaufort was an absolute blast. We actually are getting like a second season, I believe, in 2022. So I'm so jacked for that. Beaufort was an absolute delight. It came out of nowhere. Maple herself, the character, was one of my girls of the year last year. She was an absolute joy. She's so much fun. They do so many unique things that you normally don't see in these RPG style animes. I'm going to give like a very slight spoiler if you haven't seen it yet, but there's like a scene where she has no offense, but she's like super strong, and she's fighting, I think it's like a Hydra or something like that, where she's losing her life so slow that she just like is like sitting there like slowly like dying, I guess, in the game. She's like, I don't have any weapons, I can't do anything. Like, how do I defeat this like Hydra monster that's attacking me? And she's like, I'm just gonna eat it. And then she just starts biting the Hydra. And eventually, because she's losing health so little, her offense is doing just a little bit more than what her defense is. So she wins the fight eventually by like biting and eating a Hydra. Oh, excuse me, my voice is getting dry. But it's just one of those shows. I was just like, that's genius. Like, normally you like Deus Ex Machina in that sense, like, oh, so the hero comes running through and, you know, like, oh, I'll save you, little girl, and then the guy with the big sword chops off the Hydra's head and the day is saved. But nope, not in Beaufort. What Beaufort does is like, I'm just gonna eat you. And by eating it, she like gains like poison resistance over time. She gets like these poison spells because she ate this poison snake Hydra thing. It's just hilarious to me that they do these quirky style of like offense and defense, and it works. It absolutely works. It was so much fun. It was an absolute blast. It was one of my favorite shows when it came out. It was a must watch for me. I can't wait for season 2. If you're a fan of, because they're pumping them, we kind of took a break in terms of seasonal anime of these style of shows. But as of recently, it seems like we're getting more and more and more. Again, we're kind of getting like a second wave of these style of shows. And most of them are god-awful. If you are looking for that style of show and haven't seen Beaufort yet, I think you should absolutely go check out Beaufort. It's on Funimation. It has a dub if you're a dub person. I thought the sub was wonderful. I would definitely recommend the sub over the dub if you have a choice, but I would rather you just watch the show instead. That would be my personal preference, and then and then get back to me if you if you do end up watching the show, because to me this is one of the most fun I've ever had with a show. So my number 7 goes to Beaufort. Number 6, this show, very, very, very recent. And by very recent, I mean it came out last season. The show absolutely blew me away. I had no idea what to expect when I saw it. I was like, oh, cool. It's a show. It's got cute girls, and they're doing motorcycles. It's Super Cub. This one of my absolute favorite slice of life of all time. I love Super Cub. If you haven't seen my review of this show, or if you have, I'm kind of gonna repeat myself because it's kind of the same take. So, but it still like resonates with me to this day on why I feel so strongly about Super Cub. So Super Cub is about a girl. She has no parents. She lives by herself. She goes to school on a scholarship. She's pretty poor. She's just like chilling, whatever. Doesn't really have like a life. She doesn't have a social network of anything. She's riding her bike to school, and one day she notices somebody riding a like moped style, like motorcycle. She's like, oh, that catches her eye. She's like, what is that? Ooh, what is that? And she does some more digging, some more research. She finds out like what a Super Cub is, and she has like some money saved up. She finds a nice old man who is selling a Super Cub, and that begins the entire journey of Super Cub. She's able to meet new friends. She's able to have a social life. She's able to adventure, where before she was a hermit crab. She was stuck inside of her apartment, doing nothing, eating the same food every day, doing the same thing every day, going to school, coming home, doing nothing or whatever, that type of lifestyle. And what Super Cub does, what did to me and why I resonated with so much, was finding a passion or a hobby where you weren't expecting it at all. And to me, I've had a few. If you don't know, I played Magic the Gathering. When I started, I was playing it with my friends. This is actually a really interesting story. I live in Minnesota. One day, it was March. We got like 18 inches of snow. We were snowed in. But luckily, I lived like really close to a Target. And I had 4 other roommates at the time. And we're like, hey, how about we go pick up some Magic packs and let's draft or something like that, like we used to when we were kids. I'm like, I haven't done this in 15 years, but like, you know what? We're snowed in. There's nothing else to do. Let's do it. So I picked up Magic the Gathering. We did drafts, and it hooked me. It absolutely hooked me. 18 months later, I was on the Pro Tour. Not to brag, but here's my Pro Tour pass. I got to go to Madrid, Spain, and play on the Pro Tour for Shadows over Innistrad, if you're familiar with Magic. And it's just one of those things where I found a passion and a hobby where I wasn't looking for it. And it just clicked with me, and it literally changed my life. And anime is also the same thing, where I watched some anime when I was like a kid. I watched like, Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, that type of stuff like that. And it wasn't until I was like 26 where my best friend showed me Food Wars, and that just hit me like a bag of rocks. I was like, what the fuck? Why haven't I been watching anime my entire life? Like, this is crazy. Like, anime is so much fun. And I got hooked, and I've been hooked ever since. As you can tell by my background, I got manga. If you're watching this on audio versions, we do have a YouTube, and I have visual content if you're interested. But I mean, I even have a tattoo of guts. Like, it changed my life forever. Like, and I'm going to my co-host's wedding in 2 months. Like, all because of anime. All because I watched Food Wars with my friend. That whole thing changed my entire life forever. Super Cub. That's what Super Cub is. It's finding this hobby, finding this passion where you weren't looking for it, and then all of a sudden it's like you meet the friends that you never would have met before, and they're your best friends, and they're your family, and you do anything for them. It's just like, that's crazy. I wouldn't have done this if I didn't ride a motorcycle. And that's what Super Cub is. It's so much fun. I really hope we get a second season. It seems like the production was like whatever. There are some really cool things about the show that were really good. Like the art and the sound design was really good. And like the visuals, like the effects were really good. But overall, like I can tell like the budget for the show wasn't super high. That's why I'm crossing my fingers that we get a second season for Super Cub. Otherwise, I'm definitely reading the manga. Eventually, I will absolutely read this manga, on God. But hopefully you enjoyed my story of why I enjoyed Super Cub so much. But if you're a fan of these like cute girls doing cute things, it's cute girls doing motorcycles. But there's a whole nother underlying thing to it, and it's the friendships along the way that you meet. It's the passions that you find. It's the new food that you experience with them. It's the new drinks you experience with your friends that you never would have had before if you didn't start picking up something. That's kind of like the whole vibe that I got with it. It's like, just do something, find something that you like, and just run with it. And whether it is motorcycles or anime or, I don't know, soccer, do something and have fun with it. And that's what I loved about Super Cub. And that's why it's one of my most underrated anime of all time. I've actually, now that I talked about it, I feel like I should bump the score up on this. But love Super Cub. It's incredible. It's like 12 episodes. It's on Funimation. Go check it out. Number 5 is a show that it has a really hard selling point because of the art. And a lot of people get drawn off by CG anime, and I don't blame them. It's honestly not the most appealing thing to look at, but to me, it's not that bad. This show kind of was one of the first like 5 anime that I watched when I started really getting into anime. I was like, oh, these are the type of stories that we can get into when we're involved in this medium. And that's called Knights of Sindonia. Knights of Sindonia is a like space mecha that takes place on essentially all of humanity is dead except for these people that live in this giant floating like space castle. I'll just put it that way, make it visually. So they're floating through space. There's these monsters, these things that like attack them, and in order to defend it, they fight in these giant mechs. And the main character he was kind of like I guess the version of like a homeless person in this world. He essentially like lived in like their sewers and like their vents and stuff like that. And while everybody was asleep, he would go into their like virtual reality like test things that they had to like practice fighting and do that like all night. And one day they're under attack. He gets into a mech and he's like the best fighter pilot of these mechs anybody's ever seen because he practices 8 hours a day every day for like 12 years or something like that. So that's kind of the premise of the story. He gets more involved in like the society, the people. He becomes, I shouldn't say like a hero, but he is definitely like the top like mech pilot that they have. Kind of Darling in the Franxx-esque ish. That's probably like a more popular thing I can reference. It definitely has like its differences. Like it's not Darling in the Franxx. There's like not as much like romance and stuff like that. It's really focused on like the political drama of them like surviving, and also like these insanely cool CG mech battles. And that's why it's hard to. I just said it. CG and mech, two genres, two types of things that like people really get drawn away from. Mech's not the most popular genre, especially this day and age, and CG can be very hit and miss. And Knights of Sindonia can be very hit and miss when it comes to its animation. But I feel like the overarching story, the characters, and what the show kind of like resembles is what like I got drawn into, because it's a very unique style of show. I really enjoyed like this is humanity's last hope. They have to survive. Because if the space castle that they're on gets destroyed, all the humans are dead. And so it's like, well, we got to do anything that we can in order to survive. And things happen in the show. That's just like, oh yeah, that would definitely happen on a space castle. And it's just one of those. It's just really hard, like I said before, to recommend this style of show. But it's really good. It's really good, especially if you get drawn into like the underdog hero style story. If you like My Hero, this character is like a better Deku. Honestly, to be honest, it's like I had to get my Hero shot in. Sorry, once per episode, the vibes. It's that style of show. It's mech. I know, I get it, but you should definitely check out a few episodes. It's on Netflix. I believe we're getting like the 3rd season movie really soon. Like it's still an ongoing thing. So if you're interested, maybe check out Knights of Sindonia. To me, I thought it was very underrated. It's not really talked about. It's one of those underhyped, underrated shows to me. And to me, I really enjoyed it. Check it out if that's your thing. If not, I don't blame you. Number 4, we're going back to fun. This show is so much fun. Blew me away. Absolutely blew me away by this show. And it's a style of show that I very, very rarely watch and very rarely give a good grade when I do watch it. Most of the time, these styles of shows I drop, or if it's like a seasonal, it's like the last on the list to watch. But this show is so good. It's an idol show. It's called D4DJ. So it's idols, but you add turntables to it. Seems silly, but guess what? It is. The characters in the show are so good. The voice acting is beyond what it should be for this style of show. It's a gacha game. It makes sense. It's definitely presented kind of like a gacha game. But I just had so much fun with this show. It was incredible. It was such a fun watch. Basically, what it is you have your shonen tournament arc at I believe it's an all-girls school. So they're at an all-girls school. The big thing is like these like EDM style music with DJing and with idol performances. That's the thing that they like doing at their school. And so they get the shonen tournament arc where all the best groups from the school compete in this tournament, and the new girl, the quirky blonde hair girl who's just super over the top everything, just makes the show. It was so much fun to watch. The music is actually pretty good. There's some hit and misses, but you get introduced to a bunch of different styles of these, like, I don't want to say EDM but that's like the easiest way to put it. So hopefully you understand what I'm saying when I say like EDM style, but you have these high bass songs with like pop vocals, and then they have like choreography dances, but each one kind of has like their own unique like style. Like one is the main group, they're called Happy Around. That's their group. Their group is all about being happy. And guess what? That's what they do. They have super happy, upbeat songs. It's super fun, and they do all that stuff. We have like a group called Photon Maiden, who is like sci-fi-ish, it seems like, and they kind of have like that type of vibe. And you get introduced to like the big powerhouse of the school called Peaky Peaky, and they're just like, they're the all-stars. They can do everything. They're the best. And just like the dynamics between them having fun. It's just like, it's a sports anime, but it's a sports tournament anime, but instead of a physical, I mean, they definitely use physical stuff, but like instead of like a sports competition, it's just DJ music and choreography. And I had an absolute blast. It's so much fun. Once again, I think writing fun is just as important as writing like a compelling story, and this does both. Man, my throat's really dry, so bear with me. I'm sorry if I'm pausing, but D4DJ, even if you don't like idol anime, or if you've never seen an idol anime, or you're just intrigued by cute girls doing EDM stuff, check out D4DJ. Most people who watch this show that aren't fans of idols were just like, yeah, this show kind of slaps. I'm like, yeah, it really does. It's really good. D4DJ, it's on Crunchyroll. There's also like a 1 minute mini series that's like currently airing on YouTube. I have no idea how many episodes it is, but I think they're on like episode 23. But the game in like Japan makes a gazillion dollars. It's more popular. I would say more popular, but it makes more money than Love Live. Only Hypnosis Mike makes more money than D4DJ in terms of like these gacha music games. So crossing my fingers for a second season for D4DJ. But I would definitely recommend this if you are a fan of idols, if you're a fan of music, if you're a fan of fun, or if you've never experienced it. Like, I would highly recommend checking out D4DJ. It's super fun. Number three was an absolute delight to me. What this show did was it took an adult story without focusing on like the romance, because if a lot of times if we are lucky enough, anime fans are lucky enough, and we get a story about a character who is older than 18, it usually has this like romantic element about it. And this show kind of does, but it's in a very different way that they do it. And the show is called Wave Listen to Me. Now, Wave Listen to Me is a story about a waitress who gets dumped by her boyfriend. She gets, like, what do you do when you break up with, or your boyfriend breaks up with you? You drink. That's what you do. You drink. That you get over them. There's other things you do when you're drunk, but she does a very interesting thing that she does. She starts bitching super loud at the bar, super loud to everybody, and rambles, all this stuff like that, and catches the attention of a like radio director, and he's like, this girl's like, she's got spunk, she's got something, like, I bet we can do something with this. And so while she's rambling on about like how men are garbage and men are trash, which they are, by the way, um, he's like, okay, that super drunk rant you went on last night at the bar, how about we turn that into a radio show? And it's a kind of like Super Cub, where you're taking an opportunity, you're finding something that you weren't looking for and going with it, and finding this passion in it while like doing other things in your life. So she's still a waitress, and she's kind of like a hustler, where she's like, okay, I want to do this radio show, but they aired at 3 o'clock in the morning. So how do I manage my personal life? How do I manage rent? How do I manage my second job? All this stuff along with like being an adult. And we really don't see that in anime a lot, because normally there's like that romantic interest or something like that. Not in this one. She is too busy taking care of turtles, her roommate's turtles, to find love right now. I do think down the road that there's definitely hints of like there's going to be something with some characters, but it's really not like I feel like it's not like a focal point of the show. I think the focal point is like managing a bunch of bullshit as an adult, and that's what Wave Listen to Me was. I thoroughly enjoy this show. I wish the manga had better art. The art in the manga is really bad, and that's kind of a turnoff why I haven't read more past the anime. But it's still in serialization, and I see it on Barnes and Noble every now and then. So my hope is that it maybe gets a second season sometimes. But that being said, the main character in this show, if you watch the show, I think it has a dub. Do not watch this dub. You have to watch this show sub. I'm gatekeeping right now. You have to watch this show subbed. The girl's voice actress in this show, it was her, I believe, her first main role and her second role ever as a voice actress. And it is my second favorite voice acting performance of all time. Number one for females, only Okabe in Steins Gate is better than this. You can literally just like close your eyes and listen to her talk, and you'll be mesmerized by this voice actress, which makes perfect sense because it's a show about being on the radio and using your voice. Wow. Whoever casted this person deserves a Tony or an Emmy or whatever the Japanese equivalent of that is, because it was so well casted. An incredible show. Wave Listen to Me. Go check it out if you haven't already. Really fun adult style show that we really don't see in anime a lot. So check that out if you haven't. Number two, this show was really good to me because it's a style of show that I kind of like D4DJ. I'm not a big fan of like Japanese music. I'll put it that way, like historical music. If you are familiar with like last season, we had these Snow White notes where they used the shamisen, which is like a 3-string guitar. This is a better version of these Snow White notes. And the show is called Kono Oto Tamare, and they play a Japanese style instrument called a kono, and it's like this group. There's 7 of them. The kono is like, it's like laid down. It's probably 6 feet long, 6, 7, 8 feet long. It has like 9 strings. Kind of looks like a laid down harp type of thing. And it focuses on the music, which is absolutely incredible. Like, don't get me wrong, like the music is incredible, but it also focuses on a really fun thing that I enjoy in anime is the group dynamic of like having like this club. You have 7 people who all share like the same instrument that they play, and they bond over that, and bonding over that makes them bond over other things and become like really good friends. And that was kind of, I had that experience growing up where I would bond with my friends. I would go to like, I was a huge nerd, so no surprise here. I'd go to like a Halo tournament or something like that, play in a Halo tournament with people, meet people. I would bond over Halo or stuff like that, or League of Legends. If you know me, I was a huge League player, and I would bond over those style of, like hobbies, and then grow that friendship into something like where I have met my best friend through these types of like hobbies and stuff like that. And that's what Kono Oto Tamari does really well, is incorporating this group dynamic and these group of friends into how do you go from friends to good friends to great friends to best friends? How do you go from um a boy and girl relationship to a romantic interest? I feel like the progression that they show in the show is absolutely wonderful. It's top notch. It's one of the best I've seen in anime. And also it has those elements where you can close your eyes and listen to them play and listen to this music that I was super unfamiliar with. I've never heard of the Kono until I watched this show. I was like, this slaps. Like, this is great. Um, yeah, so there's definitely, I'm a huge romance guy. There's so many hints where, like, I feel like if we got like the third season, it would develop way more. But it's just like a really fun, dynamic anime about a specific passion, kind of like Super Cub was. Instead of motorcycles, it's music. And I think I'm finding like a trend here of things that I really enjoy in my anime. So if you haven't seen Kono Oto Tamare, I would highly recommend checking it out. It has 2 seasons. It's on Funimation. It has a dub. Go check it out if you haven't. And before we get to number 1, I was going to do like my honorable mentions, because I wrote down, I think I did like 17, so 7 or 8 didn't make the list of my most underrated anime. So I'm just going to do that. So the other ones that didn't make the list were the Berserk movies. Obviously, I'm a huge Berserk fan, but I thought that the Berserk movies did a fantastic representation of the Golden Age arc. I do believe Berserk 97 is better, but I think Berserk 97 is properly rated, so that's why I don't think it's underrated. The Berserk movies are a little lower than I thought they would be, because I thought that they did, I think if you read Berserk and you watch this, you'd be like, that was a really good interpretation of the Golden Age. And so that's why, to me, it was a little underrated. Also, Prison School, one of the funniest animes I've ever seen. It's way more, it is ecchi comedy. But holy crap, that show is so funny. If you haven't seen Prison School and you like the ecchi comedy, go check out Prison School. Yamada-kun and the Seven Witches, which to me is I think it's a very underrated like romance anime. It's interesting because the manga is 28 volumes and the show is, I think, 13 episodes. And they kind of conclude everything in the anime, I thought, really well. And just usually when you have that much content and then you compress it into that many episodes, it's pretty bad most of the time. And I thought that Yamada-kun did a great job at handling that. So to me, it's underrated. I love it. I've rewatched it like 3 times. It's a really fun romance style with like a hint of supernatural stuff in it. Asago to Kase-san, or Kase-san and the Morning Glories. It is a movie. It is a Yuri romance. Usually, this is true in this movie too, but a lot of times in Yuri and Yaoi and stuff like that, where nothing really develops. I should just say in romance anime in general, unless we get like 4 seasons. A lot of times nothing really develops. And this is kind of similar to that, but to me this was like really pure-hearted and wholesome style of romance compared to adding unnecessary drama for the sake of drama. It's just high school girls figuring out who they are and finding out that they are attracted to each other. And I really enjoyed that style of like Yuri and Yaoi. A lot of times in Yuri and Yaoi, like every character is gay. Like every single one. If you saw Citrus, like every girl given, every dude. And to me, like, it kind of like, I don't like, it's not that I don't like that element, but it just seems like the interactions didn't seem as real. Where in this show, it did really seem like they were the only 2 that were like attracted to each other, or to like, in the sense they're like the only like lesbians. And it felt more real because that's kind of like what it is in real life, where it's, I don't know what the percentage of the population is gay. It's like 10% or something like that. or at least like admits it or something like that. I don't know the statistics, but not every single person is gay. And to me, when we had those interactions between two people who were, it felt way more real, and I really enjoyed that dynamic and style of Kase-san and the Morning Glories. Zombieland Saga. I didn't put this on because season 2 is getting. I've been watching its score and it's been climbing like every day. So, Zombieland Saga is a fantastic show. It's a parody of idol culture and it's about zombie idols. The show is incredible. Season 1 has like a 7.5 on Mal, which I think is absolutely silly. I thought it was at minimum a 9. The show is absolutely genius. Same with season 2. Season 2 was fantastic. I think that's the reason why I left it off this, because season 2 is getting so highly rated. But if you haven't seen Zombieland Saga and you like comedy, you should watch Zombieland Saga. And the last one is called Decadence. It aired last year. Decadence is a combination of Attack on Titan and the movie Her. So it has like a really interesting dynamic that I really haven't seen in anime. Really cool. If you're a fan of the sci-fi, if you like AOT, you should probably watch Decadence. I think it's a better version of Attack on Titan, to be honest. It's a little different. There's way more like political stuff in AOT, but it's like that stylish show of fighting, unknown creatures and stuff happens. It's really fun. Go check it out. So those were my honorable mentions. And just to recap, before we get to number 1, my actual list, number 10 was Asobi Asobase. Number 9 was Summer Wars. Number 8 was Akudama Drive. Number 7 was Beaufort. Number 6 was Super Cub. Number 5 was Knights of Sindonia. Number 4 was D4DJ. Number 3 was Wave, Listen to Me. And number 2 was Kono Oto Tamare. Number 1, to me, this show is insanely underrated. It was one of the easiest 10s I've ever given in my life. I think the reason why this show isn't highly rated more is because it's a short. It is 12-minute episodes. It's one season. But what they do is they take the style of a romance and incorporate or like a romantic couple story and incorporate it into 6 different ones. And if you haven't heard of the show, it's called Surizuri Children. Surizuri Children takes the dynamics of 6 different types of couples in an anime and makes it just super fun and enjoyable to watch. We have like the jock and the shy music girl as like kind of the couple. We have like the stereotypical couple. We have the outgoing girl and the shy boy. We have the childhood friend. We have the like first time crushes being together. It has like a really interesting and fun dynamic that I have never seen in anime. Things that would make this super underrated. The sub and the dub are both incredible. The voice acting in this show is so good. It is so easy to watch. You can watch it I think you can watch the entire show in under 3 hours. It's really quick. Yeah, I did my math. It's like 2.5 hours. The entire show. The rewatchability is off the charts. You find new things with the couples each time you watch it. Pretty conclusive ending. I know that the manga touched on it more, but I felt like it did a really good job at going through the different types of relationships with the different type of people in those relationships. You have like the full-on couple who are like ready to have sex to the guy who's never talked to a girl before. We have that entire dynamic in this show. The show is insanely underrated. I love Surizuri Children. I can't talk about it enough. If you haven't seen it, I believe it's on Crunchyroll. Whatever you're a fan of, sub, dub, does not matter. The show is so good. As long as you're a fan of like romantic comedies. The drama is pretty light. There are definitely some drama elements, but I'd say this is like 98% a rom-com. Check out Surizuri Children if you have not. Highly, highly recommended to me. It's in like my top like 13 anime of all time. I love Surizuri Children. And that concludes the episode. Wow, I talked for almost 50 minutes straight. And my throat hurts, but if you made it this far, thank you so much. If you are a fan of the podcast or a fan of me or a fan of anybody that's on the podcast, and you want to support us, the best way to do that is if you like, comment, subscribe, whatever platform you're listening to. If you're on like iTunes, if you leave us a review, whether it's good or bad, it helps us. It helps me get better. It helps the podcast get better. I greatly appreciate that. We are also, I'm a very social person. Our Discord's super active. If you are looking for somewhere to talk anime, manga, politics, sports, pop culture, anything, we have a great active Discord. Mostly like young adults. We're probably anywhere into like, we're like anywhere from like 18 to like 30 is like the range of our Discord. So, but anybody is welcome. Just if you're wondering like the style, we don't have like 12-year-old incels in our Discord. So that's a huge plus. Thanks to everybody who keeps our Discord active. You can find that and our socials in the link tree in the description below. And if you have social media, I am most active on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter. That's What Do You Say Annie. That's What Do You Say ANI on Twitter. You can stay up to date on the podcast. Next week, we are doing our watch club. We are watching Here and There, something. It's like a 1990s isekai. It's kind of like a staple of the isekai genre, so that'll be really interesting. And if you join our Discord, we also have, you can vote on shows that we will watch for Watch Club. We also have a manga club. It's kind of like a book club, but for manga, we meet every other Sunday. And we are reading Vagabond this time around, but you can like vote on manga that you want to read. It's really cool. So if you made this far, thank you again. We'll see you in a week. We do every Monday. Thanks again, and we'll see you then.